Bienvenido. If you are able, please share this show with a friend, leave us a nice review on the podcast player of your choice, or if you'd like to support us financially, sign up for the companion podcast, The St. Nicholas Project on Gum Road. All these things really help us out. Namaste.
Hello, friend. The Mystical American Patriots Society is transmitting to you from beneath 4 million cubic feet of solid granite, in the burning heart of the Yellowstone caldera. This is a variety program for normal sandwich-eating Americans with some concerns about living in a deranged, post-Christian technocracy. So, keep your third eye on the sky and your ear to the ground, as Sumo and Smokestack connect your main brain vein to a higher plane. Are you ready? Stand by.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Hello? I am the, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm a representative from the Lincoln Project. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great.
Hello.
How are you?
Yeah, I was wondering if you would be interested in being a conservative Republican and voting for us this coming election season
Oh,
in Virginia.
I don't know. What's in it for me?
Well, we're going to try to lower your taxes. One thing I do need from you, it's a bit out of the ordinary. Do you have a white shirt perchance?
I think I do. Yeah. Like a button down?
Yeah, and like khaki pants maybe?
I do. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's great. We're having a little get together, a little rally for one
great.
of our candidates, and we want you to. Will's going to supply the hats and the tiki torches,
Okay.
obviously.
Uh-huh.
If you just
Did you say tiki torches?
yes, that's pretty standard. You're gonna do a little march around, and this is going to help our public image as Republicans.
Is this like a luau themed party?
Well, it's more of a KKK themed party, but without the hoods. We're doing fashion forward now. It's more hats.
Do you think that'll be received well?
I think it'll be received pretty well. We've done a lot of market outreach, and it just seems like this is the way to go for a Republican organization. This is what we need to be doing.
Okay. I'm a Republican voter, and I'm really into my party, so that means I'm just going to go along with this, and it sounds like a great idea.
Right, and it's I'm so glad you said this because I was getting nervous.
Is my donation tax deductible?
Absolutely not.
Darn.
But I'm glad you said that because I was getting a little worried. We know we had a few too many. Of course we're pretending that we're white supremacists to help the cause.
Which is a little weird, but I'm going to go along with it. I trust you.
Well, I know, and it was getting a little. I think it's weird because the narrative was getting a little mixed because we could only find. I'll just be honest with you. I'll just be honest. What did you say your name was again?
My name's Smokestack.
I'll be honest with you, Mr. Smokestack. It's been a little hectic because I have. Some of our current people we have playing white supremacists are black. And it's just not, it's a bit incongruent.
A little confusing.
Good morning.
You gotta drop that voice now.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Did you see that? If you look closely at that weird picture of the people in the white shirt, one of them's a black guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's like a black guy, a chubby woman.
Yeah, it's like, what was your first clue this was fake? I mean, I guess the first clue that it was happening is that it was fake. Yeah. And then the second clue is that one of the white supremacists was a black guy. Although I don't really believe that the Lincoln Project was behind this. I think they're jumping on the grenade for Terry McAuliffe.
You think so?
Yeah, I don't think they actually planned this. I think that the local Dem machine planned this, and they weren't very smart about it, obviously. And now Lincoln Project's trying to clean up their mess. I attribute that idea to Duke of Alba. I saw him remarking.
Yes, probably so. Yeah. Probably so. But, so for those listening who aren't aware, and all of this, all that we're going to talk about is, like all of our things, this is related to our coming interview with the great homesteader philosopher Jason Snyder in ways that shall be made clear.
Yeah.
To the person, to the people, eventually. Maybe.
Sweet.
But yeah, so there's this election in Virginia, if you still care about such things, going on, and they're doing all the things where they're like, the election may not be decided on election day.
Yeah, they're already setting up for that, man.
We don't know, we can't count the votes in a reasonable time anymore, because we need time to cheat.
No, they're fortifying the democracy. That's what they're doing.
Right.
It takes extra time when it's extra fortified.
I mean, even if they're not, it just sounds so suspicious every time you're like, listen. They're like, we had election day yesterday. Who won? Well, we don't know yet.
Yep. We got to strengthen and fortify our democracy a little bit more.
We're still rummaging around. I think we've got like trucks of ballots somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a water pipe that burst, I think. And we just have to, But anyway, yeah, there was this. And who is I care so little now, I don't even know the guy's name. Who was the guy running, the two people? Do you remember?
It was Terry McAuliffe and Glenn Youngkin. Yeah,
Terry McAuliffe and Glenn Youngkin. And Glenn Youngkin is the Democrat, correct?
No, McAuliffe is the Democrat.
McAuliffe. Okay. So the idea is that Youngkin wanted to smear his opponent as a white supremacist. And so he tried to recreate a mini Charlottesville sort of optics scenario with people with tiki torches.
McAuliffe was trying to smear Youngkin.
Yeah, whichever.
Yeah.
None of these people matter.
It's true, they don't matter.
But it was obviously not, it was obvious even to normal people watching it that something was off, because one of the white supremacists was a black guy.
Yeah.
And that was weird.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was this short, chubby woman.
Yeah.
And there were only like 5. And then for somehow the Lincoln Project, which is a quote unquote conservative organization, which isn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's a what do you call them? It's a infiltrator, agent provocateur,
controlled opposition or something. I don't know.
Controlled opposition, something. Who all they do is really just promote whatever the left wants. They try to frame it in a conservative way and do pedophilia.
Yeah, they also
which is
molest their staffers.
That's their 2 main products they put out.
Mm-hmm.
Is controlled opposition and pedophilia. But anyway, they took credit for this, or they took the blame, or whatever this credit blame is for this somehow. They're like, oh, that was our idea. We thought it would help.
Like a fake terrorist organization leaping in to claim credit for an attack. They jumped up and said, this was our responsibility. I think they tried to make it sound like a performance art project to try to reframe it a little bit, but it was so embarrassing. I don't think anybody's buying it.
Yeah, I don't. What was the purpose of it would not be clear in any way.
Yeah.
Like why? The only reason it would make sense is if someone was trying to smear the guy as a white supremacist.
Right, and that's the way it ran for the first few hours of the news cycle. That's the way they were running it. They were like, "Oh yeah, look at all these white supremacists coming out to support Youngkin," and then only when it was obvious that it was fake did they start trying to, reframe it as some sort of a weird.
I don't see why people don't do this on the opposite. Like just like if you're a white supremacist and you want somebody to win, you should publicly support the other guy.
Yeah, it's not like they don't know they're not popular, all four of them.
Yeah, you should go out and be like, "Listen, this is our guy. We love this guy," and then people would feel bad being with you.
Well, the problem here is that there are no actual organized white supremacists out there. They're all fake.
Yes, that's true.
And so there aren't any to do this.
Right. And so they're just... So I think maybe people should form another fake group.
Yeah.
To then smear the other side.
We could be the fake white supremacists impersonating
or
the
you
original
could be
fake
like
ones.
a fake pro-pedophilia group, like a fake NAMBLA. And come out and be like, "Yeah, look, we love McAuliffe guy here.
Mm-hmm.
He's the pro-pedophilia candidate."
Yeah.
And that would maybe make him look bad.
Well, it would backfire because that would just get you invited to the election after party.
That's true. All politics now is just a smear to see if you can label the other person as either a racist or a pedophile.
Yeah.
And the secret is everyone in politics is both.
True. Yeah.
They're all both of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why it's easy both to smear them and also why they don't like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Lincoln Project just decided it would jump on it. It would jump in front of that bullet, like someone working with Alec Baldwin. Just jump right in front of it and see how that would happen. Is the Alec Baldwin thing real? I haven't decided yet.
I mean, I think it would probably qualify as real and divine judgment. That's just the way it tastes to me right now.
Well, I was thinking that, but it's a little bit, if you look into it, there's a little bit of the flavor of JFK and Lincoln assassinations.
How so?
Well, like the JFK and Lincoln assassinations are always like, they always, go hand in hand.
Right. There's a lot of, not similarities, but like weird relationships.
Yeah, like he was going from something to a theater, and the other was, I don't remember all of the things.
Yeah.
But, like he was, I think Kennedy was riding in a Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all these weird parallels. And there's that with this, in that the person that was killed, well, like, so was from, whose father was a Ukrainian submarine operator for the Soviet Union. Right?
Okay.
And Alec Baldwin's most famous movie is Hunt for Red October, where they're looking for they're like the defector's Ukrainian submarine operator.
Oh, weird.
And the movie, it's the Hunt for Red October, right? And this movie is called Rust, and Rust comes from red.
Yeah.
And then it's a Red October because he killed the submarine operator person in October.
Okay. Yeah, that's
right.
Weird. Yeah.
And then the guy, or like the armorer lady that is maybe fake.
Mm-hmm.
She grew up on the same Alaskan military base that they leave from in the Hunt from Red October.
Ooh, weird. And
there's a lot of these things, and the more you dig into it, you're like, oh, this is either fake or it's one of those reality screw ups where the Mandela effect sort of happens in real time, and you get all upset about it.
I don't feel real upset. I don't.
Well, it's because I don't like it when the Mandela effect happens in real time.
When
I'm
bother
sitting
you
there.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the map and I just watch Australia slowly creep across the ocean.
Yeah, I understand how that could be a little disturbing.
The Mandela effect. I'm Mandela affected, and it's not a condition that's recognized currently by psychiatry.
I see.
And that, well, one might say that I'm the most oppressed because of that.
You do seem oppressed.
I'm very oppressed. I mean, if you have multiple personality disorder, if you have autism,
Mm-hmm.
if you have anxiety disorder, if you have gender dysphoria, these things are all recognized, and there are groups. There's no groups for people that remember Nelson Mandela dying and then being back again, and then dying again, even though no one saw him in the interim. They just threw another funeral for him like 20 years later.
Is there
and pretended that it was real, and everyone was like, yeah, but go ahead.
a little production question? Is there on the podcast players, is there like a box I can check to say that this is a special needs podcast?
Oh yeah.
Since you're Mandela affected, I figure maybe that would get us a little.
It's also Latino owned.
Yeah,
I think, and operated.
Which one of us is Latino?
Well, I like to listen to that song that goes I.
Okay, all right.
I
yeah,
like
so you're Latino. Okay. Yeah, I can do that. So we're minority and special needs podcast.
Yeah, we're minority special needs podcast, and yeah, I think that's fair. We're also disabled because we today I wanted to talk about people with heart transplants.
Sweet.
So that but anyway, so this is all going to be clear of why this is tied to Jason Snyder, the great homesteading guru, in time, who we have an interview with later.
Cool.
But you may not, listener, it may not be clear to you until months later, perhaps, the connection.
Yeah. You gotta wait for the Mandela effect to kick in.
But you gotta wait for the Mandela effect to kick in. But I was spurred up. Are you familiar with the phenomenon dubbed cell memory?
No.
Cell memory. This is not a crackpot theory that is existing on the fringes. This is a real theory that is bandied about in the halls of academia, which may mean it's less credible, right?
Yeah, it might. Yeah, but we'll go with it anyway.
Right, but I'm just saying, you could say this at a dinner party to someone that listens to NPR, and they could be like, even if they don't know what it is, you could say like, oh, but like someone at Harvard thinks this.
Oh, right.
And then they could talk about it.
Okay.
Right?
Because it's on the approved list of topics.
Yeah, it's an approved list of topics, and so you don't have to feel embarrassed about it, like, suggesting that if there is atmospheric refraction causing light to bend around towards your eye because of the atmosphere horizontally as the sun comes up, then wouldn't there also be vertically as you go up? And that would be like why the Earth looks like a sphere when you go high, because of refraction.
Right.
You don't have to get into that.
No,
right?
It's not necessary.
It's not necessary that's not an approved topic. But this, you could be like, this is an approved topic. And so, and this goes back to the Egyptians. Not really, but it sort of does. Because number 15 and I were not arguing, but we were texting, and he said, I don't know what you're talking about. And I said, I know. Used to, for a long time, the Egyptians, when you would die, what did they do to your brain? You remember?
They would pull it out.
They pull it out and just throw it away.
A jar. Wait, I thought they put it in a canoptic jar.
No, they did that with all your good organs. Your brain was trash.
Really?
Yeah, they pulled it out through your nose and they just tossed it.
Man,
Because I don't. The standard explanation of this is that they thought it was trash.
Okay.
I'm not sure that that's evidence that they thought it was trash, or just evidence that they couldn't pull it out intactly, and so they were like, "Well, this is no good."
Okay.
Because the other organs you can cut open the abdomen and pull out,
right,
and store. If you're into storing your dead uncle's organs, that's an easier way. There's an easy way to do that.
Yeah.
Right. This brain is a bit, you'd have to crack the skull open, and that gets messy, and then you can't really sew it back together well, and then the brain is very mushy, and if you pull it out, it just sort of falls apart anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So my thought has always been that they wanted to store the brain, but it just wasn't feasible, and so they said, and then they eventually came to, oh, you don't need it.
Yeah.
And so maybe that reinforced the idea that you don't need it.
Okay.
Because you could store it, but the afterlife still went on, even though it was mushy. I don't know. But anyway, they did believe, rather, that like when you think, where do you think your thoughts come from? Where does it feel like they're coming from?
My brain, in my head.
Right, you feel like they're sort of happening like behind your eyes.
Yep.
But apparently, the Egyptians and many ancient peoples, when you ask them where are your thoughts located, they would point to their chest and their heart.
Mm-hmm.
Which is strange to think about because it feels so natural that our thoughts are in our heads.
Right.
But maybe that's just cultural conditioning.
Could be.
To like idolization of the mind.
Yeah.
But anyway, they believed that your thoughts were coming from like your heart or maybe your whole body.
Mm-hmm.
And this idea has renewed resurgence in medicine.
Ooh.
Yes. Ooh. And it has for a while, and it's still not like the mainstream opinion, but it's one floating around that's an acceptable weird thing for you to believe. You know, there's certain acceptable weird things for you to believe.
Right.
In the discourse. Like one is that we could load up our consciousness to a computer.
Mm-hmm.
Even though even though PDFs haven't advanced since 1997, one day, very soon, we will upload our entire consciousness onto chips, right? And you can believe that, and that feels fine for people.
Right.
Other things, weird things that you can believe, is that human beings, they're like 10,000 years ago, there were all different kinds of species of human beings running around in a little hobbit world.
Mm-hmm.
That there were tiny hobbit people, and there were Denisovans, and there were Neanderthals, and all these things. And you can pretend that the world was a fairyland, where of Grog and Krung, who walked around, right?
Yeah.
With and there weren't dinosaurs yet, but there may have been.
No, of course not. That'd be ridiculous.
Right. Yeah. Or saber-toothed tigers. And so you can pretend to different, there's all sorts of weird things that are proof you believe. And this is one of them. Which is that memories are not simply stored in Das Brain.
Okay.
Right? And as you know, listener, I don't believe memories are stored anywhere at all, physically. That's just, that's maybe a topic for another day, but I don't see how it doesn't even, like, a memory being stored biologically is very much harder to justify than like on a, because a computer is basically you're writing it down.
Yep.
You're just using ones and zeros to write it down rather than a piece of paper and a pencil. But the it's hard to see how that would be analogous in any way in the brain, because it just I don't think that it works like that, because all of your memories that you have, when you start thinking about them, and if you wanted to translate them into terms of like terabytes, like all of the information you get from one moment, like the colors in the room and the smells and your emotions and the names of it. It's if you take some of those and add them all together, it's terabytes and terabytes and terabytes of data.
Yeah.
That would never be. It just seems hard to. Now people will say, but you don't really. You only really remember a few key points, and then your brain just makes up the rest, which is true to some extent. Like the color of someone's shirt in a memory is often just manufactured by the memory,
right?
Because you don't really store the non-important details.
Well,
but yeah,
neurologists have tried to figure out like where the memories are written down in the brain or how, and I think it's been a complete failure for them to even come up with a decent theory of how memory works. Because, I mean, there's electrical activity happening, but there's no write process, and there's no records in there. I mean, you can look at the stuff, and there's no data written down anywhere in the brain. You know what I mean by written down? It's not biochemically evident that any information has been stored in the brain matter. Yeah.
If it is stored in the brain, it's stored in some extremely complex way on like the atomic scale.
Right.
Which is dubious, maybe. But like it'd be like the way your the electron shell arrangement of the atoms in your neurons or something.
Yeah, it would have to be something
crazy.
So discrete, right?
Yeah. So I doubt that memories are stored anywhere. And rather that it is some sort of, it's some sort of other thing where like, I don't even really know how to explain it. It's just like, I like the brain as the antenna model more than anything, and that you're like self-resonant with yourself in the past.
Yeah. Or like the spiritual organism transcends the bounds of space-time, and once you pass through some space-time, you're forever present there. Even if your, temporal instance of your body is stuck in the present.
Yeah, I think you are resonating with the past that still exists.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think all of time exists. You just experience it you experience it in slices, which we call now. But that it still exists somewhere.
Yeah.
And then when you have a memory, you're connecting back to that thing.
Well, they tried to visualize it in that old movie, Donnie Darko. Do you remember that movie?
Yeah.
Where they were walking around with these, like, tubes projecting forward and back, representing, like, their path through space-time.
Yeah, they call that your time worm.
Yeah. And I think that was a decent attempt to sort of... It's like your spirit is still present at all the times you've experienced, and you can reach back there and look at it again.
Yeah. So cell memory theory is the next jump down to explain that, and I think it may be. I would explain it a different way, but this is like they're like, well, we can't find it in the brain. Maybe memories are stored in the cells.
Okay, interesting.
Okay, like on a cellular level somehow, and then they say, well, if that's true, would organ donor recipients receive the memories of their donors?
Weird.
And the answer, some have said, some doctors have said, like an article, this is what prompted me for this week, was by a certain M.B. Leister, who wrote a paper called Personality Changes Following Heart Transplantations, the Role of Cellular Memory, Medical Hypotheses in 2019.
Ooh.
This was bandied about. And this has been a recurring thing. There's lots of papers, if you look at this, they go back to the 60s even.
Okay.
Of people talking about this. But sometimes it appears that people that receive organ donations get some memories or personality traits of the people that they received their organs from, which is a bit weird.
Yeah.
So also then be careful. That brings up the specter of, you need to screen who your organ donor is.
Right.
Because I don't know if you don't want the memories and emotions of an axe murderer.
I know, it could drive you insane.
It could be a problem, But so I was looking into this a little bit for the show, and I found some nice ones. One in the Journal of Near-Death Studies.
Sounds like a good read.
It's a proper journal. I know it doesn't sound like it, but it's a proper journal with medicine people in it. And they cite sources and all the whole things, Yeah. And it was called Changes in Heart Transplant Recipients That Parallel the Personalities of Their Donors. And it outlines a couple of cases. First case is this. The donor was an 18-year-old boy killed in a car accident. The recipient, an 18-year-old girl, diagnosed with endocarditis and subsequent heart failure. Now, this was before the vaccines.
Okay, I was about to ask.
This was before the vaccines. And did you see that? Did you see that horrible? They had a article in.
Talking about the New York Post.
Yeah, the New York Post saying the previously unreally recognized heart attack thing of 22-year-old women.
It's amazing the way they're trying to retcon this thing. Oh yes, 20-year-old women and healthy 20-year-old women have heart attacks all the time. It's just we haven't talked. We've never really noticed until now.
And the thing is, listener, that's happened.
Oh man,
for everything that's ever existed.
Yeah, just watch it. Watch it happen in real time. How heart attacks are going to get normalized for young people.
I think it's not normal for you to die at 80. Or whatever. I think you're supposed to live to 120, and people have retconned it because of all our environment so bad. People are like, yeah, this is the normal age.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you on that too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so I think there's a lot. I think almost everything you've ever been taught has been retconned.
This one we get to watch happen though, which is
to watch happen in real time, right? But this case was before the vaccines. And the donor's father, so the boy that died's father, a psychiatrist, wrote when they asked him about his son. He said, "My son always wrote poetry. We waited for more than a year to clean his room out after he died, and we found a book of poems he had never shown us, and we've never told anyone about them. One of them has left us shaken emotionally and spiritually. It spoke of seeing his own sudden death. He was a musician, too, and we found a song titled, 'Danny, My Heart Is Yours.' The words are about how my son felt he was destined to die and give his heart to someone."
Whoa.
Spooky time. I don't think I would be the sort of person that if I had I would not like that gift of knowing those details about my future.
Nah, me neither.
It would be weird for me. He decided to donate his organs when he was 12. We thought it was quite strong, but we thought we were talking about it in school. But thought they were talking about it in school. When we met his recipient, we didn't know what it was. We don't know now. We just don't know. And the recipient reported. So remember the song that they found in his room after he died was called "Danny, My Heart Is Yours," and the person that received it was a girl named Danielle.
Ooh, what?
Who received his heart. Right? And she said, this is the recipient. She said, "When they showed me a picture of their son, I knew him directly. I would have picked him out anywhere. He's in me. I know he's in me, and he is in love with me." So this is like a creepy after death heart transplant emotional love story.
Whoa.
That I never. And she goes on to say, "He was always my lover, maybe in another time somewhere." So this has gotten this one immediately got weird.
Yeah.
Case one immediately got weird. Ladies, please don't do things like this.
Yeah.
Don't fall in love with your organ donor.
Right.
That's very strange. But see, women like that because women like safe love
and tragedy.
And tragedy. Yeah. And like a story. So like if she could ready-made have a romance with a tragic death,
mm-hmm.
that she'd ever had to experience this negative emotions about, that's just like living a romance novel.
And she can say, my heart literally belongs to this dude.
Yeah. So don't do that, ladies. Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it now. If you ever... don't. And so she said, "How would he know my name is Danielle?" And then when they played me some of his music, I could finish the phrases of his songs.
Ooh, well, I mean, you can do
That's
that.
not so hard sometimes.
Yeah. Depends on how creative he was, I guess.
Yeah.
Still, the whole Danny thing, that's kind of crazy.
That's very creepy. But if it's like, if his song is like, we went down to the get a dime, we didn't have much, and you're like, time?
I was going to say limes.
What, limes?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so that's a bit weird. And she finishes is saying like, I feel his songs at night like it's Paul serenading me. So that woman is just creepy.
Yeah.
And she should be, but the Danny's heart things. The recipient's father, Danielle's father, said, my daughter, say what you will, she was what you say a hellraiser until she got sick. They say from a dentist, they think. I don't know what that means. Like she got some heart. Then she became quite quiet. I think it was her illness, but she said she felt more energy, not less. She said she wanted to play an instrument and sing. When she wrote her first song, she sang about her new heart as her lover's heart. And that case is both interesting from the perspective of like the recipient receiving emotions from the person and the psychic knowledge of the donor, and also from a psychological necrophilia angle.
Mm-hmm.
Very many interesting points on that case.
Yes.
I don't like Danielle. I don't know who she is, but she creeps me out. Or that. If I knew a woman that started talking about how she was in love with her organ donor,
yeah,
I would have to recede and break our friendship off. That this is weird. You have to no, thank you. The second case outlined in this one was a 16-month-old boy who drowned in a bathtub.
Oof.
Yeah, that's very sad. But this one, thankfully, will probably not have romance undertones.
Okay, there's that.
Right? Yes, I'm just letting you know that. So I was reading through this and I was like, oh, good. That's how disturbed I was by the first one. I was like, oh, good, a 16-month-old is dead. Because this won't have any sexual weird things on it.
Yeah.
And so that was relieved. The first case made me very like, ooh. And the recipient was a 7-month-old boy. So a 16-month-old boy giving his heart to a 7-month-old boy diagnosed with pterology of Fallot. I don't know what. It's a syndrome, if you look it up, involving a hole in the ventricle septum.
Okay.
But it's the pterology of Fallot.
Okay.
So and a displacement of the aorta and a bunch of stuff. Pulmonary stenosis. It's bad. Okay. So the donor's mother, who was a physician herself, said, the first thing is that I could more than hear Jerry, that was her son's, heart. I don't know what this is. Gets a little weird, right? But she's talking about she could feel her son's energy, like his spirit, alive still, because it was in another person still beating.
Ooh.
Like she felt like part of him had not died. In her soul, she felt like part of it had not died.
Right.
In his thing. Right. The recipient's mother reported, I saw Carter go to the donor's mother. He never does that. He is very, very shy, but he just went to her. So Carter, the one that received the heart, went to the donor's mother. He ran to her, normally being very shy. And he ran up to her, apparently like he did, like the donor child, Jerry, did when he was a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And he grabbed her and whispered, "It's okay, Mama."
Whoa.
Yeah. Exactly. This whole researching this always makes me be like, maybe organ donation should be banned.
That's just so weird, man.
Yeah,
I don't know how, if I was in that situation, I don't know that I would handle that real well.
I wouldn't either. Yeah, I would not. Yeah, I would not either.
I mean, it's beautiful that it's okay, Mama, but still, holy smokes.
Right. And so Carter continued talking to her for just a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about Jerry, the donor child, having mild cerebral palsy on his left side.
Yeah.
And he didn't in like a I know this is like it's and people are like this is a 7-month-old, but this is like a couple of years later when they reunited. People are like this is a 7-month-old.
Okay.
Right. But somehow the claim is that the child knew or described the donor having mild cerebral palsy. Like he's like, my face used to be stiff or something like that. Right?
Whoa.
Right. Which makes me, I'm like, if any of this is real, maybe we shouldn't organ transplant because we're doing like some weird Frankenstein thing.
Yeah.
Which, and mixing up the souls of people. Maybe the Egyptians are right, and like your soul is more confined to your heart, and so a heart transplant is like really metaphysically problematic.
Well, it's funny because when people talk about the idea of a brain transplant, they think, oh, it would be more of a body transplant because the brain is the part that has the mind in it. But then what if it wasn't? So what if you did a brain transplant and you got a new brain, but you were the same person?
Ooh.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And then they disposed of the wrong things.
we have to do a brain transplant just to see what happens at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
that would be weird.
Like, do you get... Yeah, what if you were like the same person? And people
but
were like,
with
oh,
somebody
man.
else's thoughts, something. Yeah, so it's like, well, where'd Bob go?
Yeah.
If you're still Steve, where's Bob?
Where is Bob? Right. I think this is something we're not going to be clear on until we do the first brain transplant.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Maybe we could get Fauci to try it with dogs, with beagles.
He probably already has.
Yeah. After he puts flies on their face.
Mm-hmm.
This was case 3. Now, this one, again, I don't know why so many of these cases have to involve weird sexuality.
Okay.
But they do. Well, this is apparently a problem. So this was a 24-year-old female dying in a car accident.
Okay.
And the recipient was a 25-year-old male suffering from cystic fibrosis.
Okay.
Who received a heart-lung transplant. And the recipient said, the boy said, I never told anyone at first, but I thought having a woman's heart would make me gay. So.
No.
Already.
Yeah.
But he says, since my surgery, I've been hornier than ever.
What?
Right. And women seem to look at me even more erotic and sensually. So I thought I might have gotten internal transsexual surgery, which is true. Like he's got the heart of a woman.
Yeah.
So it is like internal transsexual surgery in a way.
Sort of. Okay.
And he said, my doctor told me it was just my new energy and lease on life that made me feel that way, but I'm different. I know I'm different. I make love like I know exactly how the woman's body feels and responds, almost as if it's my body. I have the same body, but I still think I've got a woman's way of thinking about sex now.
Weird.
Right. The recipient's girlfriend reported, he's a much better lover now. Of course, he was weaker before, but it's not that. He's like, he just knows my body as well as I do. Before he was a good lover, but not like this. It's just different. He wants to hug all the time and go shopping.
She didn't say that. Hug all the time and go shopping?
No, she did. She says that.
I thought you just threw that in at the end.
No, that's the...
Oh, man. That is super weird. Whoa.
Yeah. So
man.
if you get a heart from a woman, you may become semi-transsexual.
Okay. Oh, man.
Could it be? Maybe. Who knows? We don't really know how much our organs affect our brain's sexual thoughts.
Yeah.
And which ones do. Like, maybe people talk about, I love you with my heart and stuff like that because it does affect maybe we intuit that our heart is affecting our emotional romance love. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it could be. I could sort of believe that. But anyway, he didn't come out completely gay. But and his girlfriend seemed to like it. So what you take away from that is, one, if you get a woman's organs, you may become gay, or vice versa.
It sounds like he turned out more like Edward the Vampire kind of character.
Yeah, exactly. Or it'll make you, which is, vampires are transsexuals, right? Or
okay.
And yeah, so it might make you. It might be a problem. I don't know. Maybe when you're in there, you should be a little more questioning, like, of whose heart you're getting.
Yeah, I think maybe I'm too old to qualify for a heart transplant at this point. So they're like, nah, we're gonna give it to somebody younger.
Yeah, this is for the younger people who are like Lanky Elvis,
right?
So he doesn't become gay,
right? Careful out there, Lanky.
He's gonna become a transsexual walking around. Going shopping.
Nah, he would never.
He would if he had a woman's heart. But what if you? My question is, what if you get women's other things like a spleen?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
What exactly. Is the spleen? What part of the personality comes from the spleen?
Yeah, I don't know. We have to. I think maybe we should do. Surely there's been a lot of organ donation done and a lot of cross-sex organ donation done. Surely we could do a study about how personality changes based on the organ, and then that would tell us which organs influence which thoughts. That would be very interesting.
That seems like a reasonable thing to study.
Yeah, you could study that in a completely normie way.
Well, if we also, while we're studying this, put flesh-eating flies on everybody's faces, we can get an NIH grant.
Right. Now, case 4 in this study, the donor was a 17-year-old African-American male, victim of a drive-by shooting.
Okay.
The recipient, now you see you're not too old, was a 47-year-old Caucasian male foundry worker diagnosed with aortic stenosis.
Okay.
Right. Shortly after, the recipient was found to be enjoying chicken and waffles, and to be involved in the rap scene.
You're joking.
He wore
with me.
I am.
Okay.
but let's not. But I joke. But let's.
Is the case? Where did the joke start?
The real case is not so off.
Okay. Okay. All right. Pull it together.
So the 17-year-old black kid, right, was a victim of a drive-by shooting. He was a classical black. Mm-hmm. In that he was walking to violin class.
Oh, rad.
And no, they weren't shooting at him.
Okay.
They were shooting at someone else, and it was a stray bullet, and he died.
Mm-hmm.
He died right there on the street, hugging his violin case. He loved music and his teachers, and he had a real thing for it. He would listen to music and play along. I think he would have been at Carnegie Hall someday. This was his donor's mother.
Yeah.
Right. The recipient reported. This was his. Again, this is one of the older papers that I found. So he said, "I'm real sad and all for the guy who died and gave me his heart. I'm real sad and all, but I have really had trouble with the fact that he was black. I'm not racist, mind you."
Dude, be thankful, bro.
Not at all. I love this because it's like the classic "I'm not racist" statement. Right. He says, "I'm uncomfortable with the fact he was black,
but I'm not racist.
I'm not racist, comma, mind you, not at all. Semicolon.
Uh-huh.
Most of my friends at the plant are black." Right. So it's the classic "I'm not racist. I have black friends."
Yeah, yeah.
But the idea there's a black heart in my white body seems really, I don't know. I told my wife I thought my penis might grow.
You're kidding. No, you added that in.
I swear he says that in this paper.
That's so awful.
After we have sex, I sometimes feel guilty because a black man made love to my wife, but I don't really think that seriously. I can tell you one thing, though. I used to hate classical music, but now I love that. Now I love it. So I know it's not my new heart, because a black guy from the hood wouldn't be into that. So he didn't know.
He didn't know. Ooh, weird.
Right. Now, so racist foundry worker who thinks his penis will grow after having a heart transplant, but then says, I know that it can't be.
Yeah.
Because I'm into classical music.
That's some delicious
really
irony that what he gets out of it was...
What I said at the beginning was maybe less racist
yeah.
than what actually happened, which is why I wanted to prime you.
Okay.
He says, I play classical music all the time. I more than like it. I didn't tell any of the guys in the line that I have a black heart, but I think about it a lot. So, his wife said he was more concerned about the idea when he heard it was a black man's heart. He actually asked the doctor if they could come up with a white person's. He's no Archie Bunker. But he does.
Sounds like an Archie Bunker.
But he's close to it.
Yeah.
And he would kill you if I told you this. But for the first time, he's invited black friends over from work. So now he's like, listen, I'm also black now.
Yeah.
I'm also black now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild. It's like against all his expectations, and preconceptions about what would happen to him. He ends up loving classical music and has no idea. Yeah, and his wife, just to put a racist cherry on the top, ends her statement with, he whistles classical music songs than he could ever know. How does he know them? You'd think he'd like rap music or something. That's what it says on page 198 of this long case study. Oh, that's great.
On page 198 of this case study that goes on and on of various cases.
Yeah.
That was a good one. I almost feel like that's a troll because it's so...
Yeah.
But apparently this is a real person. I don't know. We'll do a few more.
These are great.
Okay. This was the case of a 14-year-old girl who died in a gymnastics accident.
Okay.
And the recipient, again, was a 47-year-old man. Diagnosed with benign myxoma and cardiomyopathy.
Okay.
Okay.
So a 47-year-old man got a 14-year-old girl's heart?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know why that seems weird to me, but the age differential just seems like...
Yes.
But I guess
agree.
You've got a really healthy heart as the recipient.
Yeah, and maybe he was a smaller man, because they tried a size match.
Okay.
Maybe he's a smaller, I don't know. But so the donor's mother reported, my daughter was the picture of health. There wasn't an ounce of fat on her. She was a gymnast, and her coach could lift her above his head with one hand. She was so excited about life, she would just hop and jump all the time like a kitten. She had some trouble with food, though. She would skip meals, and I think we might call her a little anorexic. We took her to therapy about it, but she just wasn't much into food. And she had this silly little giggle when she would get embarrassed. It sounded a little like a bird. And the recipient, the 47-year-old man, said, when interviewed, said, I feel new again, like a teenager. I actually feel giddy. I know it's just the energy of the new heart, but I really feel younger in every way, and not just physically. I see the world that way. I'm really young at heart. I have this annoying tendency to giggle. It drives my wife nuts. And there's something about food. I don't know what it is. I get hungry, but after I eat, I feel nauseated and like it would help if I threw up.
Whoa.
Yeah. Maybe a lot of your personality is actually contained in the heart. Maybe that is not just maybe we say that because it's true and we sort of feel that.
Yeah.
You know?
That's wild.
Mm-hmm. The recipient's brother said, he claimed, he's got a weird laugh now, like a girl's laugh. We tell him and he doesn't care. His appetite never did bounce back after the surgery. He's pretty much nauseated all the time. After Thanksgiving dinner, and he loved it, he went upstairs and vomited. So
weird. Yeah, dude, that is weird.
It may be possible that if you receive a significant organ from someone else, like I don't know if this will happen with a skin graft.
Right.
Like maybe if you get a skin graft from a black guy, you don't develop a love of classical music.
Mm-hmm.
Or a larger penis. Who knows?
Sure. Well, it depends on which skin it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But maybe like a liver or an organ or who knows about an eyeball? Like, how would your eyeball affect you?
Ew. Can they do eyeball transplants?
No, they can't. It's only in sci-fi.
Right.
But if you could, would you quote start to see the world, quote unquote?
Yeah.
In the same way they would. Like, would you pick up on things you like, not beyond just like visual mechanical input?
Mm-hmm.
Would you begin to like have a worldview like they did? Maybe so.
Yeah.
See?
Well, let's see. It makes you think of the eyes as the windows to the soul. It's like, what if it's still the window to somebody else's soul, even after it's been transplanted?
This is why you probably shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
Another case was the donor was a 19-year-old woman, suffered a broken neck in dance class. The recipient was a 19-year-old woman diagnosed with cardiomyopathy.
Okay.
So this is pretty similar, 19-year-old woman to 19-year-old woman.
Mm-hmm.
The donor's mother reported, "We met Angela, the recipient, and she is the image of our daughter. They could almost be twins. They're both bright girls. I mean, my daughter was bright too. She wanted to be an actress, but we thought she had too much academic potential for that. Her father is a doctor and really wanted her to follow in his footsteps." The donor's father reported, "Stacy was extremely bright." That's the donor. "It's so tragic. She would have made an outstanding physician, but she wanted to dance and sing, and that's how she died. She fell in dance class. We always argued good-naturedly about how disappointed I would be if she went to Hollywood instead of Harvard. I hope she knew I just wanted her to be happy." Okay, so the two parents, physician, wanted her to be. The recipient said, "I think of her as my sister. I think we must have been sisters in a former life. A lot of these people tend to have former life beliefs.
Okay.
I only know my donor was a girl my age, but it's more than that. I talk to her at night when I'm sad. I feel her answering me. I can feel it in my chest. I put my left hand there and press it with my right. It's like I can connect with her. Sometimes she seems sad. I think she wanted to be a nurse or something, but other times it's like she wanted to be on Broadway. I think she wanted to be on Broadway more. I want to be a nurse, but I could be a doctor too. I hope she will be happy because she will always be my angel, my sister in my chest that I carry with me everywhere." So she had no idea that this woman wanted to be a dancer or an actress, but she says, "I think she wanted to be on Broadway. But maybe she also wanted to be a nurse," right? So like, somehow she picks up on these things.
Mm-hmm.
How is that explainable unless memories are maybe stored, or at least, like, I would say if my theory of memory is correct and they're sort of like you're resonant with the past, then part of your body would likewise be resonant. Like part of your new body parts
Right.
would be resonant with the past also.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And there was another one in another article. This was some recipients developed the same aversions to new things after obtaining a new heart. For example, a 5-year-old boy received the heart of a 3-year-old boy, but was not told the age or cause of his donor's death. Still, he offered the following description of his donor following surgery. The recipient said, "He's just a little kid. He's a little brother, like about half my age. He got hurt bad when he fell down. He likes Power Rangers a lot, I think, just like I used to. I don't like them anymore, though." The donor died falling from an apartment window while trying to reach a Power Ranger toy that had fallen off the ledge.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. So, now, can I verify these cases personally? No. But many people have written about these things. This is a recurring theme that happens. It doesn't seem to happen every time. Maybe in 10 to 15% of cases, people report something like this.
Okay.
Why that would be not every time, I don't know. Maybe people just don't recognize it happening. Maybe it's so outside their window of what could happen, they don't realize that they became gay after heart surgery because they got a woman's heart. Who knows? Is it a coincidence that homosexuality rose culturally with organ donation? I don't think so.
No, I think that's a coincidence.
I think, in fact, if you look at the data, almost all gay men are heart transplant
Shut up.
recipients. I think if you look at the data,
Yeah.
that's what it is. But no, I don't know. But that it raises the question: Is it? Does it work like that? Who knows? And this will be super relevant to the interview with Jason Snyder.
Awesome.
coming up soon. I mean, extremely relevant. You'll be like, wow, this is so relevant. This makes total sense why this is there. But you know what the thing is, though? I don't know that all of our listeners are going to understand the relevance.
No. Well, they're not all, super smart people. Some of them are.
Well, they are. The thing is, I think it's one of those things where, like, if you've been listening to the other podcast on the St. Nicholas Project, you'll get it more.
Oh, okay.
If you've been listening to the other Gumroad podcasts on St. Nicholas Project for at least $7 a month, you'll understand more all things, not just this thing. The problem is
there's no way you can top the promo from the last show.
I know, well that too, but the thing is it makes me sad because doing like stupid commercials actually seems to get more people to go sign up for it, which makes me be like, see, no one's immune to marketing, not even our listeners.
It's true. It is a sad realization when you learn.
You just have to
tell people to buy the thing and they buy the thing.
Yeah, go buy the thing.
Get excited about new product, listener.
Yeah, well, it's not even new product. It's podcasts.
Yeah.
That are short.
Mm-hmm.
That are it's a way for you to but you should go buy it. It's like a tip jar, really, if you enjoy the show.
Oh, hey, we had a little, before we switch over, we had a little mailbag.
Oh, good. Yeah,
that was important and relevant to our audience. So, in light of last week's...
Wait, I had one more commercial.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So, we're sponsored this week. We have a sponsor. Did you know that?
No. What?
We have a real sponsor.
Is it Pfizer?
No, it's not Pfizer. It is. It's Alec Baldwin. Surprisingly,
really
has a he has a fireworks company and a water gun company.
Okay.
That he's tried to merge together to make a new thing, and it's called Baldwin's Bangers. And he wanted us to. He bought 30 seconds on this show before, unfortunately, he had the accident.
Right.
So I didn't clarify with him whether he wanted us to run this or not.
Mm-hmm.
After he murdered 2 people with his fake gun, which probably wasn't real. But I thought that we should run it anyway, just because that was in the contract. But, maybe in the future, going forward, I think if we make contracts with potential sponsors, we should specify, like, if you kill someone in the interim, we should check with you.
Right.
Or
re-verify.
if you get a female's heart and become gay.
Right.
Or a black man's heart and start liking rap music.
Mm-hmm. Or classical.
That we should check with you. Or classical music.
Yeah.
But I didn't. And so I almost did feel like there's going to be like some marketing thing that comes off of this. Mm-hmm. Like Baldwin will have some sort of product. I'm like 40% sure.
After the dust has settled, I'm
like 40% sure this is going to become some sort of product. But I don't know. But it wouldn't surprise me. But I just wanted to make that joke so that when it happens, I could come back and be like, see.
Okay.
But see, told you. All right, go ahead.
Oh, we had a great little email from Dorian, who, in light of our last show on second wave slavery, recommended the book "The Slavery of Our Times" by Leo Tolstoy. Oh. And I'm about halfway through it. It's not a big book, but it's really blowing me away in the discussion about kind of the slavery of the industrial age. And he talks about, and this was written in 1900-ish. And he talks about how these guys unloading the ships would go and work 36 hours at a time without sleeping. And it was all, free market, man. What are you going to do? But he goes into explain why people are being subjugated to this kind of stuff. And one of the big parts of that book that really struck me was Tolstoy takes some time to talk about tax law. And because you got to ask you a question, especially at that time, why are people being basically driven off the land from being peasant farmers and going to these cities to work? And he identified it I think there were three main points, but the two that really stood out to me were tax law. Basically, if you have to pay taxes, especially property taxes, being a tenant farmer or a subsistence farmer is a very low cash flow sort of situation.
Yeah.
Especially if you're providing all the stuff of your life, growing your own food and so forth. There's not a lot of cash. And so if you have this cash demand on you, that hits somebody like that a lot harder than it does somebody who is already a professional type. So it's easier to live in that tax environment if you're employed rather than like a subsistence or farmer. Yeah. And then the other part of it, which was basically the temptation of city life. And he's talking about how all these women that work in the silk factories are basically going to bars all night and sleeping around and, just becoming
it's
floozies.
It's the same thing forever.
Yeah, it was really interesting to hear Tolstoy talk about that stuff going on in, early 1900s. But I highly recommend the book. Thank you, Dorian, for the email.
Your great-grandmother was just as much a whore as everybody else. Listener. She just doesn't talk about that with you. But if you ever received a heart transplant from an old woman, you would feel all of her whorish ways.
Yeah.
And it would be the same as it is now. It's always the same. Every generation of people is the exact same. Which is sort of depressing, but also sort of comforting.
Yeah.
Which is something I think is doomer optimism, which is Jason Snyder's moniker.
Sweet.
So see how that segue worked?
That was beautiful.
It all works together.
My synthesizer's not hooked up, so I can't do a sound. I'll have to put it in post.
Yeah, put it in post. We fix it all in post. This whole show is done in post.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. All right, man. All right,
Here comes Snyder.
Here comes Snyder. Ready? Here he comes. Here he comes. So, yes, thank you for doing this.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, you look even more homesteady, like in live video, than you do on your pictures.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, I don't shower every day, but I smell okay, I think. And I also don't comb my hair very often.
Right.
And I don't shave that often, so it's more out of just neglect than anything else.
Yeah, but the jacket and the flannel and everything, just it's the whole combo. It's yeah. So I don't guess you've ever listened to our show before.
I haven't.
Yeah, that's fine. But so what we talk a lot about the American culture from the perspective of like mysticism and spirituality, supernatural, paranormal stuff.
Okay, sounds good.
And also we have a vein of like checking out of society, out of getting away from alienation and also just pure self-preservation.
Sure.
And so I thought, your stuff fits in very well there.
Sure.
Yeah. So,
well, I'm also interested in the evolution of consciousness and, that kind of stuff as well. So it should be an interesting conversation. We can dip in and out, back and forth.
Yeah. So if our listeners aren't familiar, Jason Snyder is you're a college professor also, aren't you?
I am. I teach. I'm not like a tenure track anything. I teach.
Right. Okay.
Adjunct faculty. Yeah.
Yeah. They don't give away those positions easily these days.
They don't. And to be honest, and I don't think this is just cope. I don't think I would want to pursue that track just because it's too much freaking work, man. It's like, you have to like do all of these meetings and, research and teaching. And I'd rather just my wife is doing that. So she's tenure track.
Yeah.
I'd rather just teach and then work on my homestead.
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy just being kind of chill about it and doing stuff around the home.
What do you teach?
So I teach a couple courses. This summer I helped to teach an agroecology course. I teach a course called Principles of Sustainable Development, which is just talking about, a lot of issues related to like ecology and energy, and just what is a better path of development than the one we've been on for a while. I'm teaching like a course next semester called Sustainable Communities or Sustainable Economies and Community Development, and I'm kind of just, I don't know what that's going to be exactly yet. It could basically be whatever I want.
Yeah.
But they're nice. They're all kind of generalist classes where I can just bring in a lot of interesting stuff, a lot of stuff that I find online, have interesting conversations with, 18 to 20-year-olds. And, it's fun. I enjoy it.
So do you find that 18 to 20-year-olds are interested in that sort of lifestyle? Is that like a vein there, or are they just sort of there? Like, what do you think the odds are that Gen Z takes up homesteading?
Yeah, it varies. There's definitely some that are interested in homesteading. There's some that work on farms or want to start homesteading and things of that nature. It really varies. I think after they get through my class, they might be more likely to go towards that path because, especially the first half of the semester for the principles course, it's kind of like shock and awe a little bit. Like things are not going well.
Right.
And then the second half of the semester, I'm trying to be more optimistic and be like, hey, these are some cool stuff that's going on. We talk about like regenerative agriculture. Talk about the prospect of like cosmolocal production, and kind of incorporating kind of digital technology and localization of production and things of that nature. And so I try and bring in like more hopeful. Things. Yeah.
Because I've noticed, I just anecdotally driving around, I notice a lot more people like developing a backup option, whether it's like a store-bought shed from like Home Depot in their backyard, or an RV, or something, or just like a lot of people seem to be worried that I think people sense something is off, even if they can't articulate it.
Yeah.
And they're making moves. I'm not sure in the best directions all the time.
Right.
But I didn't know if Gen Z was picking up on that also, or if they were just TikToking.
Yeah, I get the sense. Well, it's interesting to get the perspective of Gen Z. Because I'm realizing one that I'm not that young anymore. I'm like double their age now, and I still remember being 18 like it was yesterday. You know what I mean? So
right.
But I do think that like the weight of the world is heavier on their shoulders, and they feel that. I get that sense.
Right.
And I also get the sense that a lot of them are pretty savvy with regards to technology, and they recognize that there's a lot of agendas out there and algorithmic manipulation and things of that nature, and so they're kind of skeptical, like a healthy skepticism of stuff, and so they kind of see like something like Facebook is kind of like a millennial boomer thing. Like we're actually just having a conversation about that today, and that's something that somebody brought up, and it's like I don't think they're on board. I don't know if at least the ones that I talked to who would take this class,
right.
Seem to have a pretty good head on their shoulders. I can't speak for the general population, but self-selection.
I can't imagine they would be like, they use social media, but not in the same way of like plastering their personal life all over it, like Facebook was.
Yeah. Well, they use it differently. And I think they've seen the millennial generation, and like, it's when you're inside of it, a lot of millennials have recognized that like, wow, this stuff is really not healthy. This stuff is really messing with our brains. But, I can imagine for them, it's like they're kind of seeing it from the outside, even though they have their own stuff like TikTok and
right.
Stuff. But I think they have a little bit more kind of critical skepticism of the whole thing. That's a sense I get.
That's good. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. So you sort of brought this up a little bit, but one of the first things that I saw you say that made me start following you was use the term doomer optimist. Or doomer optimism. And I love that term because I've also felt like a doomer optimist, maybe for different reasons. But like things are really, there's a lot of problems.
Yeah.
But also a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
That come with that. So like, what do you mean when you talk about doom or optimism? Like, what are you doomed about?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Well, so that term came up. I didn't coin it. It was the Rhizoma School account. But it came from kind of a conversation that, some of us were having. I had expressed it earlier in terms of like this feeling of like, things are really dark and, really, difficult. And people can have that sense for many different reasons, right?
Right.
They can have it for political reasons. They see, decay of political institutions, or they see kind of authoritarian, trends rising, or, I'm more of an environmentalist,
Right.
I see climate issues, climate chaos. I see ecological degradation,
Mm-hmm.
industrial agriculture, and I'm pretty black-pilled when it comes to that. I think that the world and just the weather is going to get crazier and crazier, and it's going to impact supply chains and energy grids and food supplies, and I tend to be kind of black-pilled there, and so so there can be many different reasons that people are black-pilled, right?
Sure. Yeah. There's no shortage of reasons.
There's no shortage of reasons, and I think it's kind of, people have described it as the meta crisis, where there's just like this whole list of things to be black-pilled about, and it could have to do with artificial intelligence and the singularity and robots taking over our brains or our bodies, so for whatever reason that you're black-pilled. So that's the doomer, but and I kind of think of this almost in religious terms, almost like like in kind of the Christian sense of like you have to, like Jesus on the cross, he was crucified and he went into hell for 3 days, right? Like you can't get more doomer than that, right?
No.
Right. But once you fully kind of internalized and processed, spiritually, existentially, emotionally, kind of, the situation we're in, then it kind of clears space. It kind of just clears open space for like, wow, well, I'm still alive right now. I have one life, let's, institutions are crumbling, ecosystems are crumbling, but hey, let's see if we can build something different and better, right? Let's carve out something different. Let's hook up with our friends. Let's create, the community institutions that we want to see in the world. Yeah. And so that's where the optimism comes, is like, hey, let's, fuck nihilism. Like, let's go do something. Let's make a mark and create a new world.
Yeah. There's 100%. There's so much opportunity. If you just I found once things fall away for whatever reason, like once you lose the hope you had in the thing that you were counting on, that somehow your blinders fall away and you're like, oh, look at all these opportunities to do other things.
Yeah.
And there's like, and before you wouldn't even see it, you're like, there's no other options. But then after you've gone through that process you described, it's like, oh wait, the world is full of options. Food can literally grow out of the ground.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's amazing.
You can grow it. You can grow it where you are. You don't have to rely on supermarket supply chains and
like water will fall from the sky.
Right.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So how long have you been homesteading? Like,
I'm still pretty new, to be honest. This is only my second year.
Okay, but you've done a lot in 2 years.
I think so. There's a lot. I tend to think about it in terms of there's a lot more to go, but it's nice to kind of look back and be like, okay, like starting to figure some stuff out. We've gotten like the kind of the garden and chickens stuff kind of going, and that's kind of starting to click. But there's a lot more I want to do. Right, like I want to build food storage, like a pantry. I want to build like a sunroom for stuff. I want to get larger livestock going, and so I'm pretty proud of the progress. But it's like I think of it in terms of like a 10-year. I'm planting a lot of trees, but like fruit and nut trees, but those aren't going to be mature for like 5 to 10 years, right? And
Sure.
so, I think of it in terms of like, in 10 years, I want to be really on top of my shit and have things kind of mature and going.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I think about the timeline.
Yeah, it's a totally different from like the corporate world where it's like this quarter.
Totally.
And that affects I find that sort of thinking affects your spirit too. Like when you have a long-term view, like it changes you internally as well.
It does. It takes you away from short time preferences. It gives you, it almost changes your nervous system's relationship to life, I would say.
Yeah.
You're not so much expecting these short-term hits, right? You're really in it for the long run, and it really changes the way you look at like your place. This relates to like a localist sensibility of like, hey, like I'm where I'm probably going to be. Hopefully for the rest of my life. I'm pretty happy with where I am. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good location, pretty good situation. And so like I'm thinking like long term. Just planting trees that'll take 10 years to mature, 5 or 10 years, like that automatically, it like puts you into kind of longer term thinking.
Yeah.
And I think that's just good. That's just good. That's healthy. That's the mark of kind of healthy cultures and civilizations is, kind of longer time preferences, right?
Yeah. You get off the dopamine cycle.
Yeah. I mean, there are definitely small satisfactions along the way. Like you harvest food, that's satisfying. You get eggs from your chickens. That's satisfying. Et cetera. But, I'm really, I think homesteading, one thing it does is it really kind of puts you in it for the long haul. Right.
Yeah.
And it kind of stabilizes you and it gives you, especially in the online world, which is nuts, right? Like reality.
Absolutely insane. Yeah.
Robert Anton Wilson, reality tunnels, and like, it's crazy. And if you don't have something to ground you, like, you're just going to be taken away in something, right? In the metasphere,
and like literally grounding you, like the ground.
Literally, yeah.
Like you're digging in the ground. I really there's something that it's just true. The idea, like the Garden of Eden, like man is supposed to be a gardener.
Yeah,
it's just true. Like when you do it, it's like
basic. Yep.
You're all these other problems start to fall away.
Yeah.
When you're just like that connection to nature is vital. Otherwise, everyone's an insane person.
Yeah, I mean, it really is the most foundational thing, of being a cultivator of nature. Right?
Yeah.
Of being
like a creator, like not just a survivor, a creator. You're sustaining life. You're getting new life.
Exactly. Yeah. You also, it's interesting because you have it in many ways. It's kind of like this dynamic non-duality, right? Where you're kind of like part of nature. You're not separate from it, but you also have a very specific, important role within nature. You are nature. You are, you're an expression of nature, but you're also the part of nature that has the cognitive ability to either destroy things or to make them a lot better, to cultivate.
Yeah. You're like an organizing principle of nature, the cosmos.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's like the principle behind like permaculture, agroecology is, humans don't only have the capacity to sustain or to kind of survive, but like you said, they can really actually regenerate, right? They can really improve. They can improve soil very quickly if they put their minds to it.
Yeah.
They can, do a lot of things, create space for other beings, other types of sentience as well, within their place, within their,
and this is my main thing against most environmentalism is they take this view like we should just not be involved at all.
Yeah, I hate that view of environmentalism. Yeah.
It's like, no, we're supposed to help the thing go.
Yeah. No, this idea that we should have like, set aside all of this pristine wilderness, that humans aren't a part of, and all the humans should kind of go to the city, go to pods and it's pristine. Like that doesn't make any sense. Like
it makes the forest sick and it makes us sick.
Exactly. I mean, if you look at indigenous cultures, in ecosystems all over the world, the Americas were very well managed food forests.
Yeah, it's amazing how it never gets out that people like the Native Americans were like cultivating the continent.
Exactly, they were doing
crazy
burns. They were planting. They were planting things that they could use for food, fiber, medicine, whatever. I mean, we're not, like we co-evolved with the nature that we understand now, even in its most kind of quote pristine form. That's a co-evolution, right? That's still
we were there the whole time, right?
Yeah.
It's this crazy. It's this almost like weird, and I don't even know what to call it, but this idea that we were like just dropped here on accident or some aberration, and we need to be separate. It's crazy.
We need to be separate, and there's some kind of currents of like humans just need to go away, and I understand where that comes from. I understand.
I do too.
The anger of like that we've wrecked shit, right? Like we've poisoned the water, we've poisoned the soil, all of this stuff. I understand that anger, but that's a pretty modern phenomenon, right?
Yeah.
It's not kind of, there have been cultures in the past that have destroyed, Easter Island, they kind of just took all the resources.
It happens from time to time. People mess up. Yeah.
But there's many examples where, they did well and they survived and were sustainable for hundreds or thousands of years.
Yeah.
And so it can go both ways. Humans have that capacity. That's, going back to kind of the Christian metaphor, like that's kind of the free will. Like humans can choose to do good, or they can choose to, they can choose to be godlike, or they can choose to be demon-like.
Yeah. Like this crazy notion going around like that. If there are, and I understand where it comes from, but like this idea that if there are more people, like that there's a zero-sum game. Like if population of people increases, animals in nature automatically have to go extinct, which isn't like if people are living correctly, they would foster more. The more people would foster more and better care of the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean that's the idea. It's it's not, to me, it's not clear like what a kind of sustainable carrying capacity would be. Whether we've already overshot it or whether there could be more people. I definitely think that and we're seeing with kind of on the frontier of, again, like permaculture agroecology, that you can have a lot of productivity in a very ecologically healthy sense, on small pieces of land.
Yeah, in a very, very small spaces. I've been amazed at what people can do with them. Yeah. I mean,
and one thing about that and why people critique that is they say, oh, well, it requires a lot of labor. Well, just speaking for myself, I enjoy the physicality, right?
Yeah.
If I don't get a few hours at least, of like physical labor, I start going kind of nutty, right?
Yeah.
Like I need that, and it just sorts me out psychologically, spiritually, and I just think that this idea that humans shouldn't labor anymore, or shouldn't like use their hands, right? And they need exercise. Okay, they go to the gym. They power a machine that doesn't do anything.
yeah.
Wasting energy. If we funneled that energy into cultivating the earth and providing for ourselves, we can do a lot. We just need to be willing to get our hands dirty, literally.
Yeah, I think it's two things. Like one, labor like in front of a computer is very draining.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also laboring over something you don't care about.
Yeah.
But if it's like your garden that you love, and you're doing it, it's not in front of a computer. Labor means a totally different thing.
Yeah. I never wish that I could work less outside, in my garden or building something that I love. I never wish I could do less of it. I always wish I had more time to do that.
Yeah.
But I have to make an income, so I have to go to my computer.
Yeah. Well, maybe one day you'll be able to make the income off the land. Yeah,
we'll see. I mean, this is still part of an early learning process.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm still learning how to really grow food, to do it in a the right way. And at some point I might, like my tendency is like I don't really want to sell it for money. I'd rather have like a barter economy sort of thing, or a gift economy sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it might come to, well, okay, I'll for a few things that I'll specialize in, I might sell just to get some extra income, hopefully plow right back in, invest right back into the homestead, really.
Well, you may not be able to jump straight to barter economy. There may have to be intermediate steps.
Yeah, no, capital, you need capital, and that's why I need an external income right now. But, in general, I would like to get to a point. Well, I mean, I like teaching, but I'd like to get to the point where I don't actually need that much income coming in from outside of the homestead. Still a little bit is good because you need to buy tools, you need to buy, there's certain things that you just can't make yourself.
Sure.
Especially in this environment where you can't procure, say, locally through some kind of barter trade or, even selling locally, just because rural areas have been hollowed out in the last 15 years, right? It's nothing what it used to be. So that needs to be built back, right? So I feel like my development almost is going to be hand in hand with hopefully the development of my region, my town, my area. And, hopefully, it has to be kind of like we're all kind of bootstrapping and helping each other bootstrap. Yeah.
I want to talk to you about that because it's like, this is the critique that always gets brought up when you bring up like localism is like, well, how do you organize at scale if everyone's just a small farmer? And and I always say, well, people used to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know, why is it such a mystery? And I guess it is because all of the social infrastructure for doing that is gone. And we don't know what would take to build it back.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, so you're kind of talking, one way I would frame it is kind of like, what is the larger kind of meta stability that kind of makes everything kind of coherent and creates, and in the past, we have models, we have the model of the state, or we have the model of empires or a monarchy or whatever, right? And so we kind of like pick and choose elements of that. But, for me, it helps to think about in terms of like multiple scales, right? Mm-hmm. And multiple scales, you have to think differently. So an important scale for me is the family scale. And then another important scale for me is village. So that's localism. It's the family, the village. And then I'm thinking kind of in the ecological sense, the watershed, how do you, some things need to be governed or managed at a watershed scale.
Yeah.
Some things need to be handled at a bioregional scale. And then, a few things at the planetary scale. But for me, it's like, okay, we can take some insight from the past, how things have done in the past, but we also have this new affordance of digital technology and decentralization where we can perhaps, coordinate kind of from the bottom up, right? And kind of create these larger, meta structures that, of, trade, coordination, whatever, at a larger regional scale that, is kind of, quite new, right? Or at least is definitely, if not, has a different qualitative, signature to it.
Yeah, I believe we are on the cusp of being able to do a totally new society, basically. Like just the technology, and this is the thing is like, how does the technology merge with the homesteading? Like, are we all solar punk crypto kids? Right. Like how is it going to work? And I really don't know. We'll have to see. But the ability of an individual or a family to generate their own electricity, is game changing.
Yeah.
It's totally game changing. And also like the decentralization technology.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You can, if you just imagine that for a little bit, you can imagine societies that like the nation state doesn't even make sense anymore.
Right. Except, maybe not the nation state. I prefer the bioregional scale, but something to prevent, say, all out warfare, just kind of zero sum, like one side just going to destroy the other side. There needs to be some kind of larger stability, but I think, kind of what we're getting at with like crypto and other new forms of coordination and currency and rethinking, how we think about money and there's new ways to do this that I don't think any of us can really predict yet.
No, it's like everyone knew the internet was going to be something, but no one could have predicted exactly what and how it would affect us.
Yeah.
I think these new technologies are the same way.
Yeah.
We know it's something big, but what that means exactly, we're not quite sure.
Right. Right.
Are you a solar guy? Do you have solar panels and?
Not right now. So that's, another, speaking of, like we bought this house, which, is nice in the sense that you just jump right in. But, it would have also, been nice to kind of like build from the ground up.
Sure. Yeah. But
and create it like passive solar, for example. And, we're looking into getting solar panels, like this pretty soon. Like actually right now we're looking into getting like a wood stove.
Oh, yeah.
Right now our heating is just like really, we have an oil furnace, which is totally not, in line with my values, but it's just where we're at. Right.
Right. Yeah.
And we're on the electricity grid. And so,
have you looked at
definitely want
the wood stoves from
invest in those things. What's that?
The wood stoves from like Norway and whatnot?
I'm not sure. There's locally there's a wood stove supplier, and so we're looking in there. I actually haven't been there yet. They have weird hours, but that's like our next major kind of investment, basically. Yeah,
that's just using wood for fuel again, and realizing like changing your mindset was like, oh, that's an option.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't even see that's an option. But like I brought up the because a lot of people in Scandinavia still as their main heating source use burn wood and wood stoves. And I've looked at those and they have them super efficient. It's crazy how efficient they get with those wood stoves.
Right. And you can like, you can cook food on them. If you get one that, has like flat area.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
Some people use them for a water heater.
You can use them for a water heater.
Yeah, it's crazy how much they get off just wood.
Yeah. So, that's, probably solar panels, I don't know if solar panels are a silver bullet because, one, if it breaks, the parts and supply chains. And so, we probably will end up getting those, but it won't be like, like we'll have redundancy. We'll have other backups. Right.
So that brings up a question. Like this is another critique leveled at localism is like, and like if we are going to move, because I think we're going to have to.
Yeah.
I think that like a lot of people you can look at decay in different ways. There's like societal decay, institutional decay.
Yeah.
I think where it's going to rubber meets the road is just kilowatt hours consumed by an individual is going to go down.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see that over time because I think the infrastructure is just not going to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I think people are going to have to start being smaller.
Yeah.
For numerous reasons.
Right.
They're going to have to, but then the question is, okay, but if you're smaller and you want to live this localized lifestyle, then how do you do things like manufacture solar panels or whatever? Like how does the small grow out to like having complex manufacturing? And can we do that?
Yeah. So, I guess I have a couple of responses to that. One, there's a version of localism that I think is kind of what a lot of people talk about it, mean implicitly, which is like multi-scale localism. And so it means minimum viable scale, right? So, it recognizes that some things cannot be localized to your homestead or your village.
Sure.
Right? A lot of things can, right?
A lot. Yeah.
Like food production is probably the major one that can. Mm-hmm. I think also perhaps manufacturing, at least at a regional scale, right?
Yeah, at least at a watershed level.
So one movement that I'm keeping track of and I find interesting is this cosmo-local production, which is basically this idea that you can have, kind of digital commons of design, right? And, like where you're sharing kind of design insights, but you can actually procure a lot of your materials locally, perhaps not all of them, but a lot of them locally, and create very like appropriate technology, right? So as you said, like we would probably have to use less energy overall. I tend to agree with that. And have to be more frugal and thrifty. I think that's a good thing. I think that's actually
it's a positive that will hurt in the moment as it's happening. But
but there's a lot of people focused on like how do you manufacture locally? How do you integrate that with agriculture, food production, with kind of community design, and there's a lot of people that are kind of developing this kind of like low tech alternatives to to meet our basic needs, basically. And some of it's kind of bringing in technology from the past that has kind of been forgotten, kind of Wrath of Non style, and some of it is like pretty high tech, but it's kind of made modular, and it's kind of streamlined in a way. You can have 3D printing technology, stuff that is fundamentally new that does allow you to localize a lot of things.
Like 3D printing is like the decentralization of crypto. It's like solar. It's one of those other technologies. It's like that's game changing. It's infancy right now. Yeah. But also it's sort of not. Like the people that are really into it can do amazing things. Right. Printing. I mean, they print crazy. It's like tools. Saw a guy print a hammer. Right. Yeah. I mean that's manufacturing right there. It is in its infancy, but it really can empower communities. It really can empower localities to cut their dependencies on larger political structures that they find oppressive. Absolutely. Yeah, like because the I guess in the Industrial Revolution everything got big. Yeah. But then we started to, and I guess in the computer world, we started to make things small. Right. And now maybe we've gone full scale and like, well, now let's make the factory really small again. Right. Right. And if that happens, that would be, society would look totally different. Yeah. Yeah. And so, there's like, things got big because there's the argument of economies of scale. Right. You use a lot of stuff, but now, we're realizing that, we're a highly consumeristic society, and most of the shit we buy, we throw away within like a year, right? Like right. We don't even, or if it breaks, we just throw it away. And so, perhaps, this trade-off of getting the scale and just getting this mass production of, low quality stuff was a bad trade-off, right? Yeah. And or perhaps, maybe it was a necessary thing to get to the next step. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. We have to give it up now. It's like, for like activation threshold, so right. Like the whole thing around fossil fuels is that, I don't see fossil fuels as being long for this world. One, just because we're going to run out eventually. Mm-hmm. Two, I don't think it's good for the climate. But it might have been, in order to kind of get to this next stage, which is kind of, bringing in a lot of the wisdom from the past, but there's going to be futuristic elements. Perhaps, a lot of us have the kind of like these visions for a golden age of humanity, something like that. Like, it might have been a necessary stage, like this activation stage that allowed us to, basically invent the technologies that allow us to then decouple from that, Yeah. Yeah. That's my hope is that's what it was or is. Yeah. So. Yeah. That because, if you, that's like real, what you describe as like real traditionalism. Like, imagine if, because there's a lot of people talking about traditionalism and what they're saying is like some weird fetishized version. Right. But like what you're talking about, imagine how different, like even things like if manufacturing was local again, like even there would be local architecture because people would be doing it in a different way with slightly different technology. Yeah. Slightly different tools. And you would have like, oh, this city looks different than that city. Yeah. And like that. And then people would be manufacturing clothes in a different way in different places. Yeah. And it wouldn't be all one gray goo mass. Right. No, it would be a beautiful, I think it would be a beautiful thing. You would have kind of vernacular, culturally diverse expressions of place and culture. Yeah. And it would be a much, especially if we were able to, if one difference from the past was that we were able to kind of, get around like, kind of mass famine, for example, just being so extremely, incredibly vulnerable to the elements. Right? But we had, because we have some new technologies as well, we're more resilient in that way. Then,
I think it would be a beautiful thing because and it really would be a fusion of the past and the future, right? It would be bringing the past both technologically, but also spiritually. Indigenous cultures, being more connected to the seasons, to the earth, to ceremonies.
I don't think you could have a religion without that.
Exactly, all of these things would come. All of the things that we liked about these religious traditions, we can bring back, and it would be diversified expressions based, reflecting the place, and it would be beautiful.
I think there's, the death of religion in the West and really globally that's been thrown at the feet of a lot of causes.
Yeah.
But I really think the main cause is just disconnection from the cycles of nature. Like that, in my opinion, like if people, again, like if a harvest festival meant something,
right.
Like we have we're coming up on Halloween and Thanksgiving, which is sort of a vestige of a harvest festival.
Right.
But it's not connected to nature in any way.
Yeah.
Really.
It's not connected to actual practices where you actually earn, where the symbolic, the significance of, the kind of the ceremonial elements that really, were spiritual. It's more of just kind of like, it's kitsch at this point.
Yeah, it's kitsch. It's kitsch. And how can the people like be or connect to God and they don't like connect to life and death? Because the other thing of having a homestead is you have to watch like animals die or kill them or whatever. And that, like most people today can go their whole lives and never kill anything.
Yeah.
Which sounds good on one level, but also you're disconnected from most of nature kills things in nature.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and that was me, before I started trying to homestead, and I haven't really, the only times I've had to kill a couple of chickens because they were kind of fatally injured. So I had to I had to behead them myself.
But still, that's a thing that most people have never had to do. I mean, if your dog gets sick now, you take it to a third party,
right,
and have it put down, rather than I guess old Yeller style,
right,
which is sad, but you're missing out on something in the way the world is.
Yeah, no, I think cultures that avoid death or don't bring death front and center in part of the definition of life.
Yeah,
are not long for this world.
I agree.
Disembodied.
I've heard the modern life described as a deincarnation, and I think that's true. Like, we're just so in our heads, so in our minds.
Mm-hmm.
That I think most of societal problems would go away if people had like 2 hours of work with their hands a week.
I couldn't agree more.
That's all it would take.
2 hours with your hands a day.
Yeah.
It should be a minimum.
Yeah.
You're an able-bodied person.
Yeah. So, okay. Tell me a little more about the regeneration movement. And also we touched on it, but where do you stand really on like how much technology you want to allow into your life and homestead? Like, do you skew more toward like Luddite Amish or more toward like solar punk guy? Like, where are you at?
I skew a little bit more towards the Luddite end, but I try to keep an open mind.
Yeah.
So for example, I try not to foreclose possibilities, right? And so, one of my kind of mantras is minimum viable tech, right? So if I can use a more simple technology that I could perhaps repair myself, or if it breaks or something like that, I'm going to opt for that. But I think sometimes for minimum viable tech can be pretty high tech, right? So if I decided to get solar panels, that's a pretty high tech thing. But I would get that because I didn't see any better lower tech options, right?
Right.
To get enough energy, electricity that I needed to do things. It really depends. I mean, I think digital technology is a real affordance. It fucks us up in many ways psychologically. Sure. Web 2 in particular. But, it doesn't have to. That doesn't. It's a tool like anything else, and it can be misused or used very well. And so I'm not foreclosing, we're talking over, the internet. I think there's a huge value in what I call cosmopolitan localism.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that term. Yeah.
Which is basically what we're doing right now. Like we live in different localities, and yet we're exchanging information, we're exchanging insight, we're exchanging knowledge. I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
That can speed up innovation not at a large scale, but at a broad scale, meaning in a network sense. And I don't want to give that up unless I would have to, and that's high tech. So
that's true. I was looking for because you said something just about that, about what was it you said? It was your grandmother said something about the bed is for sleeping and sex, and you said the computer was for posting on Twitter and podcasts.
Yeah, I mean, that was just kind of a shit post in general.
Yeah, but it was good. That was true. Like the computer is a good tool.
Yeah,
but you should be limited. It shouldn't be your whole day. Like if you lay all day in bed,
yeah,
like the bed is for certain things.
Yeah,
you shouldn't be there all day, and the computer is for certain things, and you shouldn't be there all day.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, basically that's it. I mean, are we using the computers, or are they using us? And I think right now, like we've lost our sovereignty, or a lot of us have lost our sovereignty. I don't think a lot of us realize how much we've been mind fucked by the internet. Really, right? And how much of our opinions, our behavior is, mediated through, well, I mean, the most obvious example is advertising, right?
Our
hedonic impulses, but even like, our culture, our values, it's the water we're swimming in. So it's sometimes hard to see, but, sometimes you have to just step back from it for a while to kind of like just deprogram yourself a little bit,
Yeah. I think you get a sense of it. And this rarely happens to a lot of people these days, even. Like when I was younger, this would happen more often. But when the power goes out for like a week.
Yeah.
Like how quickly your mind starts to adapt to a different way that you knew, just things taking longer.
Yeah.
To do. Like it takes 10 times longer to like wash the dishes.
Right.
And it makes you think in a different way. But you get that the marketing, the constant, like seeing ads 24/7 is just awful.
Yeah.
It makes you a non-human, really.
Right.
So a few more quick questions, and then we'll be done. This has been a great interview for me so far. Really enjoyed it. But in your future plans, how are you going to include things like fishing, hunting, or is it just going to be mainly producing like a farm thing? Are you going to, or foraging even? Like how much of this, how old school are you going to try to go?
All of the above, really, again, I wasn't raised fishing, hunting, foraging. This is all stuff I'm gonna have to learn. And, luckily, there's some people, that I know that, are experienced, fishers, hunters, everything.
Yeah.
And so hopefully, I'm just going to tag along with them. But I think, when we start thinking about diversified livelihood strategies, I think at a localized level, I think, catching wild game is an integral part of that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's an integral part of being human, of how we evolved as well. It's sad because my dad, when I was really young, used to hunt. And I remember being really young and I would go with him, and I was too young, so I would stay in the car.
Sure.
And then he stopped hunting, for, whatever reasons. And so he never actually took me when I was of age to actually be able to go. And so, it's something that is sad. I wish, I had those experiences, because, it's one of those things where I'm going to have to get over my squeamishness and, but it's something I think is really important. And I want my kid to grow up experiencing those things. So absolutely.
Yeah. I feel similar about fishing. I went, my dad would take me fishing, but I never went enough to get good at it. Yeah. And you think like, oh, it's just fishing. Yeah. And I used to think that, but then one time I went fishing and I wasn't catching very much, and this other guy pulls up, complete redneck fellow, doesn't have a fishing pole. He has some string and a lure tied around a beer can. And he just sort of whips it around his head like a lasso, hurls it out there. catches like 7 in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, what are you just rolling it up on the beer can? I'm like, okay, there's clearly an art form here. I don't understand.
No, it's a real skill, and it's one of those skills as well that, you can't really learn it in a book. You have to, it's really, if you grow up doing those things, you start learning the hidden patterns of how to do something like that. Right.
Yeah.
When to do it, exactly how, it's like, that's connection with nature. That is integration with nature. Like that's what we need. You said this random guy, like these kinds of folks have a lot to teach us. And
they do. I was like amazed. He's like, what are you doing? And he's like, you just throw it. He couldn't even explain it. He just done it so much.
It's embodied. Yeah.
It was embodied. Exactly. It was like his hands knew what to do.
Exactly.
And his eyes knew the spots to look for. And and what struck me is that guy, he also would while he was fishing, he would talk to the fish, just like whispering.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, oh, you gotta talk to them. Otherwise they won't come. And I thought that's just, but then now I'm thinking maybe that's true. Like maybe you do have to talk to them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's who am I to say who hasn't, caught in his life, who am I to say that that's nonsense? I have no position to say that. Yeah.
I just, from that man, I thought I got a little glimpse of like modern animism.
Yeah.
He's like, the fish are intelligent and I have to speak to them.
Yeah.
To coax them to come here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. That was great. One last question, because we are a semi show that talks about paranormal, supernatural stuff. Have you ever experienced anything you would consider paranormal and or supernatural? A ghost, a UFO, a Bigfoot, anything like that?
I've definitely experienced expanded states of consciousness.
Okay.
Numerous times, both through psychedelics as well as, due to meditation. And so for me, it's always been kind of like these kind of non-dual glimpses or awakenings, right?
Yeah.
That are kind of just like a glimpse. I haven't experienced anything I would call paranormal.
Okay.
In terms of supernatural, to me, nature is pretty mystical in and of itself.
Yes,
and so
I agree.
I don't know if I would draw a clear distinction between natural and supernatural, but I haven't. What you're describing of like a ghost or some entity, I haven't had that experience.
Okay. Yeah.
What about you?
Oh, I saw a UFO when I was 14. That sort of kicked off my whole thing. And I don't know that it was aliens is the thing. It was like this weird anomaly.
Yeah.
They came very close.
You can't explain, you have no other explanation for it.
Exactly. Yeah. And I've talked to people before, like recently I was sent a video of basically what looked like a burning ball of spinning plasma in the sky.
Yeah.
That would float close. There's people have these weird things you can't explain. And that's always, I think those are hints and glimpses of what is beyond. They're trying to piece together.
Yeah. It's,
and local people are more open to it because they talk to fish.
Right. Well, my stance is I just don't know. Right.
Yeah.
I just don't know. Haven't had that experience, but if people claim those experiences, I'm not going to foreclose, I'm not going to foreclose that it was what they claim.
Right.
The universe reality is much weirder than I can comprehend. So that, So
that's, like McKenna used to say, where is it written that slightly intelligent monkeys should be able to understand the cosmos in total?
Yeah. Not really.
Exactly. Well, all right, man. Thank you so much for your time. That was great. I enjoyed talking to you.
Cool.
I enjoy your work. I want to see your homestead continue to grow. You're an inspiration for what I want to do one day.
Sweet. Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, good luck, and look forward to keeping up with what you're doing as well.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much.
All right. Take care, Yoshi. Bye.
targets up here. We just had something go right over the top of us that, I hate to say this, looked like a long cylindrical object. It almost looked like a cruise missile type of thing moving really fast that went right over the top of us.